Good evening, Danvers. Welcome to the Topics of the Town News. I'm Mark Zubarek, your host, and I have Eric Crane, School Committee Chairman, and we have Tony Betancourt. I was going to say Tony Bennett,
I know,
but you can't sing.
No, I can't sing.
So welcome, gentlemen. It's been an interesting evening.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to our local news broadcast, reported by Danvers news commentators, meant for Danvers residents. We sometimes have to expand our coverage because we are not totally independent town, either in Massachusetts or the United States. However, our focus will always be on local issues. The agenda and opinions are solely by the Topics of the Town host, guests, and commentators. Had a little blurb here in regard to recent updates of the Select Board and School Committee meeting, but I think we'll bypass that because I think everything has been recorded and it's available on DCAT channel 36 and 37 and 41. So if you want to, please tune in to those programs, both the school committee meetings and the select board meetings, which are recorded and presented on a regular basis, and you can get access to it. Today, what I wanted to do is have a little bit more of a Christmas theme. That's why we have the Santa hats, and we had some clips that we're going to show, but technical issues have arrived, and we will not be able to show that, but we can always include it later. So, first and foremost, I want to wish both of you Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to all our neighbors, Merry Christmas to all our support staff at DCAT. Now we can begin our show presentation.
And Merry Christmas to the whole town.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And we have a Hanukkah lighting
Yes.
this week.
I believe so, yes.
So
Yep.
that'll be going on in front of the library,
Mhm.
and that is a wonderful expression of support for our community. Now that we begin the show, Danvers School Committee and School Department is the first issue that I want to address. And what I want to do is go to a statement that I've had to for many shows, and this is a Mark Twain quote. It is easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. And that's been a quote that I've used over and over again. And another quote that I would like to present at this time, and this is in regard to the awakening of the Danvers parents, taxpayers, and residents about what really matters. Because we get so wrapped up in the little details that don't mean anything, but we have to look at the big picture. And one of the quotes that I've selected was from Oscar Wilde. Education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. And this is related to our school committee. So, what I did here is I have a clip that I was going to show, but it's the awakening of the Danvers residents and what really matters. Blind obedience to current dictatorships in government, racial agenda, LGBTQ agenda, and cultural circumstances was the subject that I wanted to address. The town management in recent months initiated a new position for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, for our government and the school department to divert the attention from the mismanagement by our elected officials. My point here has been, and it is continues to be, is that this DEI position is absolutely unnecessary because our elected officials, the ones that have been selected by the town residents, should be able to take care of these particular issues. And I will ask for comment because that's something that is very dear and near to my heart, because I believe that our elected officials have not reached out to the community and tried to resolve these issues. And the one thing that's happened with this DEI committee, or the director, is that the elected officials have basically diverted the attention to that particular individual and not taken steps in their own house.
So what's an example of that? What's an example of someone diverting something to the DEI?
If I'm not mistaken, she's supposed to help out with the school system too, right? Am I right, Eric, or no? She's supposed to help, she's working in town hall, but she also reached out to the school, is that right?
She works with every
The
every
entire
area
town.
of town.
Okay.
But I'm saying, okay, give me an example of town government or the selectmen school committee, whatever, deferring to the director of equity and inclusion and not handling something.
Well, the incidents that have been happening at the schools basically have been put aside right now in regard to the swastikas and to the, to the,
How were they put aside?
well, the community doesn't know exactly what's been done about solving that particular issue.
Well, we've talked about it. We've actually,
Well,
we've had a number, look, I think we've had maybe 3 or 4 instances where swastikas were identified in a bathroom. There was one that wasn't directly related to the schools. I think might have been outside one of the schools on a bench. But look, anytime those things happen, what you're trying to do is, number one, talk to, and what we've done, we'll get the students together, talk to the students about what has happened. We will reach out to the parents of that particular school community,
right.
talk to them about what has happened. In particular, last year, we brought the Holocaust program in to try and raise sensitivity to the issues. Each individual incident, to the extent that you can identify someone who has done something about it, or done the act, a perpetrator, if you want to call it that, now you have to try and take a look at what's the why behind it, what's going on in that student's life, and how do we help make a correction there? What do you do with the, now, we're not going to say to the town, oh, here's a particular student and here's what we did. The students are all different. The circumstances are different. And the students are entitled to a level of privacy in terms of whatever discipline might have been meted out or what response is going to be. So,
and that's the thing that sort of worries me a little bit, is that the discipline in the schools is, and I hate to say it, lacking. Because
well, again, how do you know that?
So sometimes you gotta be careful how you bring it out too, because if it's brought out and someone sees that, there'll be a copycat to it. Right, Eric? To a certain extent?
Well, that certainly happens, but I guess my bone to pick with you, Mark, is that you're making broad statements that I don't think you can necessarily support with particular facts. How do you know the discipline in the schools is lacking?
because the residents and the community doesn't know what is actually happening.
You mean in terms of what's happening to the students who are caught?
Right.
They're going to, the school handbooks for each school and the general policy manual for the school, which is online and available, outline what potential disciplines are for these kinds of things. We're not going to say, look, on January 3rd, a student did X and he got suspended for 3 days. I mean, when you get to that level of student discipline, the privacy matters more. And, the fact is, you can assume, I've often thought, and I've heard others say, you should assume good intent. You should assume that when something is happening, we're trying to do the right things.
And that's what the community needs to hear, and that's not coming across? Because, you know, we've had incidents with the hockey team, with the teacher being murdered in the high school. And the thing is that the community is not included in the solution to those issues.
Well, again, I would disagree. The community certainly had their say about the hockey team issues, and there's obviously a lot more levels to that than ever comes out in the media. And again, particularly in that case, student privacy was a big issue. As far as the murder of the teacher and the solutions, that was a horrible event. It was investigated and prosecuted, and you know, as far as a solution, quote unquote, look, that was one instance involving a really awful event and act, but certainly I wouldn't say it's representative of either the Danvers school population or the town population.
And I think that's what needs to come across. But let's move
You would never
on.
think something like that would happen in Danvers. I mean, really.
Well,
honestly.
that's the thing.
You know, you never. I mean, honestly, you know.
I mean, anything. Look, it's an uncertain world, and
No,
particularly in terms of school violence, you know, you're having, you know, a number of incidents almost monthly or weekly where someone's going into a school and, you know, really causing great harm
Oh,
to
I
people.
know. And that's what I
you-
think the community is afraid of, because we don't want that to happen
Of course
in
not.
our town.
But we had two separate presentations, I believe 2 months running, and it might have been September and October, where Chief Lovell came to school committee meeting and presented on, you know, what the training is going on and what they're doing to try and keep our schools safe and what we're doing to try and keep schools safe. Now, we're not going to in any way go into specifics about, you know, where a camera might be or those special kinds of
Right.
things, because, you know, why tip off anyone who might, right?
Well, just as an example, and this is going back too many years, back in the 90s and 2000.
You're saying it might not be a relevant example.
Right. Might
Okay.
be a relevant example, but as a Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
at that time, I walked into the high school in the front door and went all the way to the back.
Yeah, that can't happen. man.
Nobody even stopped me. Nobody even asked, "Who the heck are you?"
So if you want to say in the 90s, was the security less than it is now?
Oh, no, the
that's-
security.
How
is-
could you not say that? Yeah.
No, the security
uh,
is going fine. But what I'm after is the item that I brought up here is that our education, and how high should our education standards be?
Well, let's go back to something you said earlier, if we can, Mark.
Go ahead.
You made a reference, sort of leading into this, about, you know, a dictatorship that we're under now.
Right.
What on earth are you talking about?
Oh no, this is going back over the last 3 years in regards to the masks and to the vaccines and to the homeschooling, because that has transpired into a reduction in the students in the high school.
Not more significantly than was the case before COVID. In other words, the number of students who are actually being homeschooled, and parents have always had the right to, and every year since I've been on school committee, especially at the beginning of the year, you do have a number of homeschool petitions that are presented. They're approved by the superintendent, and under the Mass General Law, frankly, if the which favors, I shouldn't say favors, but it makes it clear that parents have the right to do that. But frankly, post-COVID, we haven't seen some huge jump in parents deciding to homeschool their students. It's not a significant bump in term now. Is it a few? Sure, but they also run through the grades. And frankly, most parents who choose to homeschool in the elementary grades. There's always a few middle school, even fewer high school,
is fewer,
but
right.
mostly in the elementary grades.
So
And-
we do have a lot of that there, Eric, more or less, or no?
I'm sorry, say
We
again?
have some people at homeschool?
Oh, we absolutely do, and we always
I've heard
have.
of it. I know
We
that
always
a lot of
have.
people do it, and I know, I think one of my
And
neighbors does it, you know?
Yeah.
our experience is that most people who choose to homeschool, I would say the majority want to have some element of a religious basis in the curriculum
Right.
or a religious connection in the curriculum, something we're obviously not going to be able to do.
Well, this is another question that's coming up as a result of that particular statement. The separation of church and state is fine, but I think we need to choose how high should our education standards be and what should be included in there. By eliminating the religious aspect of the school system, we have chosen to, let me just read this one statement here. All states are asked to set high standards for students, but they have the flexibility to choose those standards on their own. 42 states and the District of Columbia have adopted the Common Core state standards by reading and math in an effort to set common goals. The remaining 8 states have standards in place as well. States are responsible for creating their own science and social studies standards subject to the included in the Common Core. Now, the comments that I'm getting, and I'll just, you have to, you know, rely on community input, is that the standards are much lower in our Danvers school system because we are being dictated by the State Department of Education to set certain limits of what should be taught in class.
Okay, so to unpack that a little bit, when you
Yes.
say certain limits, what do you mean?
Well, limits of, you know, you're not teaching to MCAS, which is appropriate. Oh, there's the high school. We're getting
Getting some
there.
graphics, are you?
Aaron,
So
can I ask a dumb question? Do they still do the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning?
Yes, absolutely.
Even in the high school and stuff?
It's
too?
done in the high school. If you go into the school, you'll hear it over the speaker.
That's
It goes into every classroom, and every classroom does the Pledge of
I'm just
Allegiance.
curious,
Sure.
Because I know I hear it, I wasn't sure, you know? That's really good. I think it should be. I remember
Well,
middle school.
the one statement I'll make, and I'll shut up about it. I have had the opportunity to go to the high school to meet with one of the principals down there. I arrived, and Lord and behold, there's a demonstration that's coming out of one door, and it's the LGBTQ students that are having their signs, their dress, their they're coming out one door and going around, and I was told that is a standard demonstration of their principles. So that sort of struck me funny, and that's why I'm really trying to get to the details of what the heck is really going on in there, because I had also an opportunity to go and film a segment of the SEL, which is social
Emotional learning. Yep.
And I attended a meeting where they had a speaker who was a former teacher because she got fired for not complying with the SEL agenda that was being made in that particular school.
What, if I can ask, what district? It wasn't the Danvers district.
No.
No, so you're talking about
No,
a different district.
But the district that this presentation was being made was in Newburyport, which is a sister community. I mean, we're close
It's
by.
local on the North Shore,
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
And there was and I even had that presented on DCAT because I wanted to get that message across. But the thing is that what I'm getting is that the SEL
Yep.
in Danvers, does it include, and I've had comments, we've had comments at the school committee meetings about the books that are being used, the exclusion of students. They can withdraw from certain classes because they don't want their children to be taught that particular subject. And you've heard that in your meetings. I've heard it. And the thing is that I wanted to get an idea of what SEL is really all about. And what I saw at the last meeting of your school committee was very interesting. See, there's the social emotional learning. That's the speaker, and she spoke for almost 2 hours. And then we have Michael King. Yes.
Where was that, Mark?
That was in Newburyport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
not necessarily connected to the schools. That's by I
oh
believe,
no, it was
an
by the
outside-
parents.
Yeah,
by
an
the-
outside group, which is very, conservative leanings in terms of SEL and this sort of stuff. When you saw at the school committee on Monday, you saw a presentation from the Thorpe School,
Right.
and it showed students working together, doing projects together, doing, you'd almost call them sort of play exercises together, really just about working together
But
and talking together and respecting differences.
But why are the parents bringing up the issue of the particular books and library material that's being presented to the students, and they're withdrawing their students from those particular
Okay.
subjects?
Again, you got to put it in context. When we presented this last year, there were a very few parents who raised a particular issue, and we worked with those particular parents. If they didn't want their child to be in a particular reading, we found an alternative for them, but it was a very small number of parents.
But why are we introducing that?
We're introducing them because, really for a lot of reasons. Number one, the key to student learning is for all students to feel comfortable in what they're doing. They feel safe in their school. They have to feel connected to their school, and they have to feel a part of what's happening. Like one book, for example, and this was not one I think that parents had any argument about, but there was a book at the elementary level which told the story of a young girl who moves from one town to another. Now, she happened to be Hispanic, but that didn't seem to be the focus of the book. The focus of the book was on how she felt different coming to a new community, and how her family tried to support her, and how over time she met and made friends with other students and could appreciate the differences between students. Really kind of benign stuff, and yet, important perhaps for a student who is different from most of the students around him or her, and to understand that they will fit in and they will have a good experience.
But
And
that's the non-challenged piece. What I'm getting at is, and this is a clip that I produced, but I'm just going to read off one paragraph here. What you will learn in this presentation, and this is
is this a Newburyport presentation?
Yes. What really is being taught in our schools with regard to the buzzwords social emotional learning? It says critical race theory,
That is not.
diversity,
Yeah.
equity and inclusion, gender identity, ideology, and culturally responsive teaching, what comprehensive sex education is, and what the impact will be on sex education already being taught in public schools throughout the state of Massachusetts. If the Mass House of Representatives passes the Healthy Youth Act, Massachusetts Senate Bill 2459. Now, you are the legislative connection to all the bills that are being passed in the House or the Senate. The thing is that this brought up a lot of issues that the parents don't know what's being taught in the class. And what happened during this COVID crisis and this remote learning, finally parents got to the point where they actually saw what was being taught to the students. And they are concerned. And the thing is that these kinds of things, and I have this televised, and you can hear the, the message that's being, sent out. Why our kids are given all these surveys in school and what they really about. What the difference is between active and passive parental consent. How you can opt out your child from being administered these surveys and from participating in sex education. What rights you or us as parents have, what the protection of pupil rights law is, and how to know if your school is violating these rights.
And this is all from the Newburyport presentation.
This is from the presentation
that
of
you happen to see in Newburyport. Yeah, I mean, okay, parents have rights. I mean, I'm
Well,
not sure what the objection is to. I mean, you're going to talk about literally in 2022. You're worried about comprehensive sex education, which has been shown to prevent teenage pregnancies.
But is that a responsibility of the school
Well, we've
administration?
been doing it for something like 50 years, Mark.
No. I went to school 50 years ago.
I mean, when I was in 6th grade, we had comprehensive sex education in 1972. When I had a health class at Danvers High School in 1974, we had comprehensive sex education, which was largely, helping students understand how things worked and how not to get pregnant, and also obviously delved into relationships and whatnot. But why are we afraid of that? And I get certain parents, look, if you as a parent want to opt out your child because you're convinced that abstinence is the way to go, regardless of what the science might say, more power to you. I'm not going to tell you not to do that.
Well, the issue here is, Eric, and forgive me for being pushy here.
No, that's
But
okay. I'll push right back.
I know you do. That's fine. The issue here is, why should the parents opt out? Why shouldn't the school committee eliminate these programs?
Why would we ever eliminate programs that have been proven to work and help student health? Would you suggest that because we talk about nutrition and exercise and whatnot in health class that we eliminate health class?
Nutrition is not the issue, you know that.
But the thing is, Mark, we have been teaching comprehensive sex education in school systems for years. And I think that you will find that the majority of parents are comfortable with it.
Well,
And the parents, so I'm not going to eliminate a program because certain parents, or I wouldn't suggest eliminating a program because certain parents, might be uncomfortable with it.
Right, that might be the problem. Some people might not be comfortable.
And that's okay. If that's okay, then an opt-out system which allows them not to have their child participate, then that works, because the majority of students whose parents do approve will be able to partake in the education piece of it. And if a parent doesn't want their child, that's why a permission slip goes home. That's why we give notice before we're going to be doing something like in sex education. I mean, you want out, opt out. On a personal level, I don't think it's the smartest thing to do to opt out, but that's not my decision.
So the parents have to sign a piece of paper?
And as far as somebody, they have the
no,
opportunity to opt
they
out.
don't.
But they get
only
notice.
to opt out.
Yeah, they get notice of when a program like that's going to be delivered. And you've sort of been all over the place. You started talking about the standards of education. Massachusetts has always been known as actually having higher standards than states in the rest of the country. So the idea that we're somehow dumbing down the curriculum, that doesn't make any sense at all based on the history of Massachusetts and the fact that Massachusetts schools have outperformed national schools for years. I don't know what you meant when you said about the religious sides of the school system, or the religious part of the school system. We haven't had a religious part of a school system again, probably since the 70s. But
Right.
I'm not sure what you mean when you say the religious part of the school system.
Well,
You mean prayer in the classroom, Christian prayer in the classroom? Do you mean
well,
classes in public schools that teach Christian religion? Like, what do you mean?
no. Just the elimination, total elimination of religion. Even the history books don't have much about religion in there at all.
Well, again, I'm not sure what you're looking for. And I can't say I've read one of the history books we use, but I think the social study curriculum would at least talk about the religions and what they are. We're certainly not going to take sides on, what's right and what's wrong. And it's not the public schools, the separation of church and state does have some meaning in terms of how deeply you're going to go into particular religions in school. But, certainly talking in general terms about different religions, that's certainly okay, but it's not going to be a focus. And you're not going to have prayer in school.
Oh, I understand
No,
it.
and
That,
also
that's
So I'm not sure what you're looking for again.
well.
there's so many different religions now too. Before there wasn't.
Well,
No,
not
they were always there.
No, but
Yeah.
we didn't know much about Muslims and so on and so forth, and and more in that area. As far as I'm concerned,
Well, the
it was
thing
more Catholic. And
the thing that I want to go back to is
you want to talk about the social emotional learning?
yes.
Do you know that the first study that came out that showed that schools that actually have higher test scores if they include a social and emotional learning curriculum was actually in Texas, which you wouldn't exactly call a touchy-feely state when it comes to this stuff.
No.
But we know that social and emotional learning actually has a positive academic effect.
In what way?
Well, if you're too worried about test scores, kids who are part of that program feel part of the school, feel comfortable, feel safe, they're ready to learn, and ultimately they perform better.
Well,
I mean, see, here's the thing. There are people out there who think that kids in the elementary school are being taught critical race theory, which is silly. We're not teaching critical race theory in the elementary school or the high school or the middle school, because critical race theory is a law school curriculum. We are not teaching.
That's not true anymore.
We're not teaching white kids to feel guilty about slavery or to blame, that Caucasians are bad and that we should be feeling guilty now for what happened 200 years ago.
Yeah,
But let me say this. Look, you love this country, I love this country.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, America has done amazing things for the world throughout our history. 2 world wars in which we saved Europe. Technologies, economy, science, curing disease. America has done amazing things which should be taught and which we should be proud of.
But what's happening now is
You're not letting me finish.
okay. Go ahead.
But Americans also need to be taught some of the mistakes that we made along the way. And that includes, when you think about it, you've got a country that didn't address slavery in its very founding, which ultimately led to a civil war. During Reconstruction, African Americans, black persons in the South won all sorts of elective offices, and as soon as Reconstruction ended and the federal troops were pulled out in 1876, Jim Crow followed right behind. You had lynchings being common in the South in particular, right up into the 30s.
It's culture.
And you had, we interred Japanese American citizens of Japanese descent were placed in internment camps in World War II. And it took us, 1948 was the first time that the Army was integrated. The Dixiecrats walked out of the 1948 Democratic Convention because Hubert Humphrey managed to push through a civil rights part in the platform. And that's when Strom Thurmond ran for president on a segregation ticket. In my lifetime.
But you see, this is a great history lesson that
Right.
you're providing right now. The thing is that is not what's being taught in schools.
Well, who
right?
says?
It's just-
What do you think is being taught? And how do you know this?
Well, this is just a reflection of the community by
But how does
and
the community know what's being taken? There are people who have misconceptions. I've been told when I was going to go on your show, someone says, look, there's an idea in this community that social emotional learning is really a buzzword for critical race theory.
Yes.
And it's simply not.
Well, then that's
When you saw
where-
the Thorpe presentation at our school committee meeting Monday,
Yeah.
did you see anything in what you saw that in any way seemed to be centering on race?
No, you're right.
Thorpe
But
School
the
is a
thing-
very good school, and a lot of parents behind them over there. That's got a very good following, that school.
The problem is that there are certain individuals that have expressed their views, and they are concerned about some of the external presentations to the community of what's really going on in the school.
Okay, so when last spring,
Yeah.
when we did a presentation at the high school, 2 weeks running of a couple of hours each, in which it was on the elementary curriculum,
Right.
and they actually brought in the books that were being used, examples of the curriculum. You know who showed up? People showed up who actually were sort of on the line of, yeah, I want to learn more about this, and I'm kind of in favor of it, frankly. The people who you're referring to who had questions, who could have availed themselves of a perfect opportunity to actually look at the books and look at the curriculum, didn't show up. If you
Well,
really want to know what's going on, show up.
Well, I've been showing up, you know.
I
that.
know you do, Mark. I'm not referring to you, but I'm saying that, look, we want to communicate with parents. I'd love to show, and the curriculum team would love to show and will show any of the books or materials that we're using.
I think that's something we need to explore further, because I think that has to be presented to the community, not just the parents of the current student load that we have in the school.
Nothing was
See,
limited
that's-
about those presentations to just the parents. In other words, that wasn't where you only could show up if you were an elementary parent. If you were interested at all, you could show up.
Well, the reason I'm bringing up is this is a Danvers community type presentation
course.
here. And what I have harped on many meetings ago is that we need to involve the entire community. We cannot just concentrate on the current school population of, I don't know, 3,100 students or whatever it is altogether.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, and I'm not trying to be difficult, Mark.
No,
but-
you have not been difficult.
But the fact is, okay, I'm interested in knowing what the community thinks.
right.
But the parents and the students are the ones who are either benefiting or not benefiting from the curriculum. And, you know, if they're comfortable with social emotional learning on the whole, if they're comfortable with the materials being presented on the whole, then that's where my focus is going to be.
Well, I just want to bring up the view of the general public,
Of course.
because this is not a secluded environment, and every time there's a discussion in regard to the schools, it's always between the parents of the current students and the administration. I have had meetings with your administrators, and one of the things that I have been stressing is, how do we reach out to the other 24,000 people that are living in this town and paying the tax bill?
So how would you, when you say reach out about our curriculum, reach out about, let's say that's it.
About the
So-
general conditions of
all right. So
what
how would you recommend?
probably call a general town meeting, and this is what Adam and I have talked about. Get in the auditorium, bring everybody in. If they choose not to come, I guess there's not
Well-
much we can do
Well,
about
that's
it.
the problem. A lot of people don't show up.
The
That's thing.
interest may be low, but at least the other 24,000 residents will have an opportunity to talk about the level of education, the types of education processes that we have implemented. And the thing is that this COVID crisis has basically opened up a lot of eyes of the current parents of the students that are attending our school system.
Certainly some. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know what it is too? A lot of people they have to work 2 jobs and stuff to make ends meet.
Well,
today.
Well,
It's
you
a
have
tough
to
world.
have an
I mean,
interest in what your, your family or your children are doing.
See, you,
And I'm talking back, my children are 40 years old.
yeah,
And yours,
mine are in their 30s.
Yeah.
Well, my oldest is 30. Look, I think what you're getting at here is the sort of, well, we're getting too far from basics and we're teaching all this fluffy stuff, and that's why the MCAS
There you
scores
go.
are only equal to the state. And that's, if you actually saw what goes on in the classroom, we're not spending hours every day that could be used on academics talking about social emotional learning. It's baked into the curriculum to some extent. But again, a lot of it's just about the skills of learning how to work together, which most businesses would tell you now is actually a skill that's necessary now
Very
and going to become
necessary.
more necessary. That people learn how to cooperate and collaborate, especially with people who may not look the same as them or come from the same background. And
Oh, yeah.
that's critical for American business if you want to look at it that way going forward. But there's no nefarious. It's like when you talk about LGBTQ, we want students, however they may be oriented, to feel safe and comfortable in our classrooms, to be free from bullying, to be able to basically live, as any other student can live and not be subject to discrimination, not be subject to bullying. That is very different from, this notion. It drives me crazy. Oh, you're trying to
Indoctrinate.
indoctrinate students.
Right.
Well, for God's sake,
That's
we have,
the word.
right. But let me put it to you this way: there were gay kids in school. I'm sure when I was
Right.
there.
That's right.
Right.
If a teacher could turn you straight, then that would have happened before. I mean, it's the idea that a teacher can actually change someone's, or a curriculum can change someone's sexual orientation. When we know scientifically that there are differences in actually brain chemistry. It's not a choice. It's not something that can be, influenced. You can't take someone who is naturally attracted to the opposite gender and suddenly turn them into someone who's attracted to their own gender. It just doesn't happen. And nor is there any sort of, like I say, surreptitious effort to convert people.
No. That's
It's
not the
laughable.
point. The point is not not that.
And what, making it acceptable?
I'm not sure I understand.
Whoa, did you plug in your phone?
No, I did not. It's
Oh,
but I think Siri heard me talking.
Oh,
Anyway.
see, we have spies even
There
on
you
the
go.
show.
That's right. I'm recording the whole. No,
We've been YouTubed
but I'm
before.
telling you, it's.
They've banned us.
I try to take a middle position on a lot of things, and I've been sometimes referred to in the years as the level-headed one, etc. But some of this stuff, I've been listening to it for too many years, and it makes me nuts.
Well, I think we need to express that more clearly, because I think it's like an enclosed, it's like a gang in the school system.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think I understand this. In a way, you can't push them. You know what I'm trying to say? I
Right.
think that's what I'm trying to get at. I can't really explain it, but you don't want to encourage it and you don't want to push it.
Kids should be.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm.
Kids should
trying to
feel
be in the right way.
comfortable and safe in their own skin, whoever they may be, in the schools, so that external things are not getting in the way of learning, whether that's learning math or English or whatever. I just want our students to feel comfortable, safe, and supported. And that's what the teachers want, that's what the administration wants. And I'm telling you, when kids get out into the real world, when they go to college and when they go to work, they're going to encounter people of different races, different
Right.
genders, different, they will ultimately meet people who are gay. They will meet people who are lesbian. They will even meet some people who are transgender. And they better be able to work with those folks, and it's got to become not a thing. Race and gender and all of those things have to ultimately become not a thing if we're actually going to reach that, equality in America that we say we want to.
There's never going to be, total equality. You know that.
Oh, I understand.
That's
that
human nature.
You're not
But-
going to get 100% of the people
No.
to not be impacted by
But
it. But
I-
that's we have to aspire to
You
better
sure
than
this
we
don't
have.
bring bullying in, though? I mean,
I'm sorry?
in a way, you're trying to. Sure, it doesn't bring bullying in from certain kids and stuff like that. I
Well,
mean,
we're absolutely trying to stop bullying.
That's what
And
I'm saying, but
bullying has been a
sometimes-
problem when Mark was in school, when I was in school,
no,
when you were
I
in
know
school.
exactly. No, I know that.
I think we've made good strides on
But
it.
we
but
took care of
honestly-
that at that time,
Well, in what way?
individually.
It was
Well,
taught-
yeah. Well, is that the
That
That's
But what
Well, that's
what
it.
my message, and this is coming from many people that I talk to, and we've discussed this before.
many people say?
Many people say our school committee members, and that's you and the administration basically, need to refocus their activities to educating our students and not on controlling the social aspects of our school population.
And what is
What are we
what does that
afraid
mean?
of? Retaliation by the health department or the teachers' unions?
What does controlling the social? How did you put that? Controlling the social what?
The controlling the social aspects of our school population,
Okay, which means what?
which means that we're leading the students on to these different LGBTQ, the CRT, the
Leading them on in like to convert them?
Yes,
Leading-
yes, in class basically.
Do you really think? that
Because
there-
if you,
do you honestly think, Mark, that there is an effort within classrooms in Danvers to lead students to become lesbian or gay or
hope not.
transgender? Well, how can you
I would
even
hope not.
conceive of that?
that is not my own conception. Don't kid yourself.
Well, I know you're not alone in it,
I know.
but that's again, and this is the kind of stuff that is one of the reasons we are polarized and why we have
And this
a
is why
unhealthy
we need to
democracy
have the
right now.
discussions that are happening.
We can, but if you actually think that, it's very difficult to have a sensible discussion. It's too outlandish to be taken seriously.
Nothing is outlandish these days. I'm telling you.
No,
it's-
some things should be.
Well, it should be.
The idea that an election was stolen, the
I know,
idea
it's
that
on
the
the front page.
Arizona
Oh.
election was off. Look, it's. I'm sorry, but it is, to coin a phrase, malarkey.
Well-
it just is, and it makes it very difficult
That's
to have a serious discussion if people are taking that position because there's no factual basis for it. Just like there's no factual basis for someone who has convinced themselves that in the schools we're trying to convert students. What would be the interest in that?
I don't think we're saying when you're converting them.
Well,
but
he just, Mark
I
literally
just
said
said
that.
that.
Okay,
I said that. That's okay.
okay, because I mean,
I have great respect for your intellect, Mark, but boy, that you have to buy into a fallacy and almost knowing that you're buying into a fallacy to think that.
I think what it is we're giving too much leadway. I think. Do you understand? Saying we're trying to let. I don't know. Am I saying it right in a way? You're trying to accommodate too many ways, and in a way it gets confusing. Is that the best way
No,
to
all
put
we're
it?
trying to, well, again, Tony,
Too many. Yes.
all we're trying to do is allow students to feel safe in who they are.
No, I understand that, but sometimes it causes more. Do you know what I'm saying? Conflict, or I don't know.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
only among people who are somehow scared of it.
And this is where I think we're coming down to, and I'd like to bring up. We have 11 minutes left. Is we have the Essex Tech issue, and about the students leaving the Danvers school system, and this is one of the aspects of why some of these kids and their parents do not want them to participate in the Danvers High School.
Well, we know it's a fairly small part based
It-
on
it
Adam's
may be.
research. Yeah.
But let me just, Adam sent me the survey information, which
Yeah.
I requested,
Yeah.
3 months ago, but that's okay. I have information here that has been presented to the school committee, and we have 261 students in Essex Tech.
Right, but that's all
And-
grades.
and all grades.
The survey
and-
only included the recent eighth grade class of students.
Well, that's what I'm
And I
trying
think
to
we
get
had about
at.
a 50% response rate on that survey
No, you've got 34 respondents
out of.
out of 55 students
That's
that
better than
transferred.
50% response
It is.
rate.
It's 73%.
Ah, perfect.
Or 25 of those students
Mhm.
chose a vocational technical high school.
Yep.
So that's a reduction again.
Sure.
But I think at the end, it comes down to that 51 additional students took the route to Essex Tech this September.
Mhm.
23.5% or 8 chose a religious high school. Here we're going back to religious high school.
Yeah.
There's a different type of education, different discipline, different criteria
Yeah,
for
lack of
learning.
special education students. So
Well,
they
that
pick who they want.
that's
but
right.
Yeah, students
Well,
have a perception
I
that
can-
St. John's Prep gets them into a better college.
I can see that's not always the case. One chose an independent high school, which is
That could be Pingree or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
and the thing is that from the comments that have been made from the grade 8 exit results, reasons for family would have see, this is twisted again like a questionnaire or any survey that you have, is reasons a family would have considered DHS, and then the other one is DHS initiatives to address.
Right.
So this is slanted towards Danvers High School, which is okay.
Well, that was the second part of the questionnaire, though, Mark.
Well,
the first
that's
one
the
was-
only thing that's reported.
No, no, it's not. And when Adam presented, there was a whole list of the specific reasons why people chose to go out of Danvers High School. Then the second slide we saw was that one, which said, okay, since you chose to go out, we get it. You've said why you chose to go out. What would have made you perhaps decide to stay in Danvers?
Well, okay, so some of the reasons, and then we've been harping on this issue for a long time, and we're going to continue with this budget process coming up. A school environment that feels more safe and supportive. 14 responders.
Yeah.
That's what they felt that the Danvers High School needs to provide,
Right.
basically.
Yet it's funny, you've in the last several minutes, when I've repeated several times what we want is for our students to feel safe, supported, being able to learn, you're concerned about the fact that it might include gender equality. That's exactly, I think, trying to respond to that problem.
Well,
we want our
that's not
students to feel
necessarily
safe.
how you interpret it that way. Other people interpret it differently. A program that resulted in graduation with certification in a trade or skill, 11 responders,
Yep.
which is something that Danvers High School cannot provide.
Right, that's
Well,
something the tech is perfect for.
That's right.
Yeah.
Option for more work-based or
Do they mean internships, that
or
sort of?
internship
Yeah.
based on experience, 7 responders.
I'd like to see us have a more robust internship program, but that also depends as much on the community business people as it does us.
But I thought that we had a robust system
We
because
have
that
as-
was presented to the school committee.
We have as
and I've
robust a
attended that
system
one.
as it can be. Now, the question becomes whether the people responding, maybe it's a communication, maybe we've got to do a better job on
Yes.
selling what we have in terms of internship. But
I
it
think-
can always be better.
I think what we have to realize, and Tony, your good example, is that we have to realize that we cannot just defend the Danvers High School. We have to determine what the issues are that are driving these students to Essex Tech. And one of the things that I agreed with Mike Landers the other night is that the culture is totally different.
Well, the culture,
And they are accepting every community. There's 51 communities that attend that school.
yeah,
And they sort of embrace them. And that's
They have
where-
that week of orientation before the classes start, and
Right.
get everybody together.
right.
Again, much of what we've been talking about tonight, Mark, is our attempt to embrace the students in Danvers, however they come to us, however different they may be from their peers, whatever their race or creed or religion.
But we are focused on special education in regard to that. And
No.
No, wait a minute. The thing that sort of hit me when I looked at the results of this survey is that desired outcomes for choosing a technical or vocational high school,
Sure.
entrance to a 4-year college or university,
Some. Yeah.
which some do, and they do a hell of a job.
Yep.
Job in a trade,
Absolutely.
and entrance to a trade or technical cost post-secondary school,
Yeah.
which is junior college or whatever
Well, it's
comes out of that.
I would think
That-
we could all agree, Mark, that the viewpoint toward, college versus some other path to success in adulthood in the last several years has changed. And I think a lot more parents and students are willing, especially when you're going to come out of private school with, what, $200,000 in debt? I think a
Well,
lot
more
of
than
parents and a lot of parents and students, I think, are looking at the analysis of what do you get in the end for all that debt. Now, if you're sure you want to be a doctor, if you're sure you want what you know,
An engineer
Right.
or something like that, it's a different
then you can
path.
see why, But maybe 20 or 30 years ago, a parent might say, okay, you're not sure what you want, but we'll send you to a liberal arts college and you'll figure it out.
Right.
But are you going to just send a student or encourage someone to go to college if they don't know what they really want to do?
Well,
If the price tag is,
let me just interject these 4 points here. This is the results of the survey because we're running out of time. 11 respondents wanted a high school experience that provided entrance into a career upon graduation.
Yep.
Which is good work.
right, yeah,
9 respondents had concerns about the climate at DHS.
right, which we're working on changing.
Which is a big problem, but it needs to be addressed, and you're trying to address it.
Adam laid that out, yeah.
Yeah. 6 respondents wanted an opportunity to develop new peer groups and friendships.
That's an interesting one.
That is.
Yeah.
Because now you're expanding your horizons to the people that you're going to be working with, and while you're being educated. So 6 respondents wanted their child to be as competitive as possible to admission into a private college and university.
And again, I think that's why I think that's the St. John's Prep, Pingree. There are people who feel that kind of high school program is more likely going to get them into a college. or
But
a
they
good
chose Essex Tech.
college. Not necessarily. The survey wasn't just students who went to Essex Tech. The survey was students who went to private schools.
Yeah.
Now, that would include St. John's Prep.
All right, Eric, I want to thank you for participating in this discussion
Sure.
because I think it opens up a lot of windows into our community and how our education system works. Tony, I am sorry,
No,
but
no
we're
big
not
deal.
going to be able to get into Beverly Airport
okay.
discussion.
All I want to say is that the selectmen are having a meeting for the airport this Tuesday at 6:30. Anybody that's interested and wants to know anything about the airport, please attend the meeting so we can have some closure. We need some help.
Yes, we do. So I want to congratulate Adam for doing this finally because that has taken a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do is have a survey for postgraduate of Danvers High
Yeah, I
School.
think we're trying that
how
too.
long their stay in college, and if they graduate.
Getting the responses is tough. It's not exactly a captive audience. I can make some news if you get 10
Go
seconds.
for it.
Tuesday, we're having a special virtual meeting of the school committee at 4 p.m. Dorothy Presser of the Mass Association of School Committees will be there, and The sole purpose of the meeting will be to announce our 3 finalists for the
For
superintendent
the
position.
superintendent role.
Yep.
Okay, the one thing that maybe what we can do is the first week, that's going to be this
Tuesday coming up.
Tuesday. Oh, okay, so we need to start thinking about the selection process.
Yeah, well, the selection process is ongoing.
All right.
Um,
Good night, Danvers.
anyway.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Eric, and thank you, Tony.
Merry Christmas,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.